In this video, I am going to cover some of the basics of ChatGPT. This is intended to be the second part of a series of videos that talk about coding with ChatGPT and ChatLice. This video can be also viewed by itself because this is the ChatGPT basics. My name is Stephen G. I'm a professor at South Dakota State University. I'm also a co-founder of a small company called RTutor. First of all, these are some of the websites that I will mention we use. Obviously, ChatGPT, the Bing Chat, Behind is a less well-known but very useful tool for a website for troubleshooting code, and also GitHub Copilot. ChatGPT with advanced data analysis, which is used to be called code interpreter, and RTutor and ChatLice.ai. These two are websites that I personally developed that you could use to analyze data. AutoBA is autonomous agents for bioinformatics. And AutoGPT and BabyGPT, we'll talk about that a little bit later. You can plan a different step you need to take to analyze a certain data or build a certain model. You can use to debug existing code. And you can add comments, explain codes, or write test functions for a existing function. You can rewrite a code for improved efficiency, or you can generate code and execute code. So there's a lot of, this is other general principles that I'll recommend. Obviously, GPT-4 is much better than GPT 3.5. We'll talk a little bit more about that later. If you don't have a GPT-4, you can use the Bing Chat. It's a very good alternative, as it's powered by GPT-4 and it's free. And Behind is also free. Also, you can try Google Bard and AI model from Facebook, which is open source. Overall, I think we should treat ChatGPT as a summer intern that knows a lot, but still is not quite reliable. And you're never going to see this intern, and you email the intern back and forth with information. So for complex tasks, we do step by step. We divide the bigger problems into smaller steps for each step to divide and conquer. Sometimes it's an iterative process. So we ask for code, we test the code. If we have error, we send the error message back to ChatGPT, we try again. If it works, we can ask ChatGPT to add to it, to add another feature, to add another functionality. A lot of times, people are not providing enough information for ChatGPT to do it work effectively. And so the first thing is zero shot, a few shot, meaning that you provide ChatGPT with some examples. For example, you want to classify a tweet as positive or negative, or response or comments. And you can paste manuals or provide some example code. If you are analyzing data, you can describe the data. Sometimes paste a small portion of the data as well. Sometimes we humans ask just stupid questions. I sometimes do that because I just don't understand some of the concepts or some of the statistics. So another important thing to bear in mind is managing chat sessions. So the chat history defines our context. And I encourage you to use the regenerate function. More on this later. You can edit your prompt, start a new session, especially when you're asking something totally unrelated. So adjust temperature settings to change the behavior of ChatGPT. So there is quite a few tutorials or recommendations on how to write prompts. For example, this is one from Microsoft Azure. It recommends to be specific, be very descriptive, and pay attention to the order in which the sentence appear in the prompts, and give the model an out. Sometimes you ask model to answer right or wrong, or just respond, you understand. These are the guidelines from OpenAI. So I'll follow these and explain these guidelines in detail, some of them anyways. So as you can see, there's 8 recommendations here. So first one is use latest model. And secondly is use the 3 sharp or 3 quotation marks to separate the instruction from the context, and be specific about the context, outcome, style, and and define the desired format through examples. Text classification, you can provide some examples. And 6, reduce fluffy and imprecise descriptions per writing. And so see what to do instead of what not to do. Some leading words to nudge the model. You can find more detailed explanation about this on OpenAI's website, but I will expand on a few that I found important. So for example, the first one, use latest model. So as we know that if you go to the chat interface, you have just one default model, either 3.5 or ChatGPT 4. If you have a plus subscription, actually there's quite a lot more models than this. For ChatGPT 4, they archive the old models firstly, and also for ChatGPT 4 you have the standard model that have 8,000 token context length, and then you have 32,000 token context. These models are more powerful. They can go over more longer context, or you can rewrite longer papers and things like that, but they are more expensive. And these are the days of release. For example, right now the most recent model is August, and you have a June 13th model and a March 14th model. For GPT 3.5, you also have different models, and then there's a Text DaVinci 003 model with 4K context. And there's also a lot of models for embedding, for DALL-E 3 for text to image, also Whispers for text to audio. All of these are accessible in OpenAI website or through API. What is a token? A token are chunks of text that can be as short as one character or as long as one word. For example, this is a word that frequently appears, and there's also this never in any other form. So probably this will be a token. And ly, for example, often used at the end of the word to be to say, beautifully. For example, maybe this is a token, but it roughly corresponds to 2,000 tokens. Roughly corresponds to 1,500 words, 4,000 to 3,000 words, roughly 6 pages. For example, if you want to edit a 6-page paper, you have to use a 4,000 token model, okay, and at once. And the GPT-4 with 32,000 tokens, you can just paste 50-page paper. In general, the latest model are better than the older model, but there are exceptions. Some researchers have noticed that the June upgrade to GPT-4 actually hurts the performance when it comes to coding and math. For example, the March model, which is this one, is 52% of the time the code is directly executable, but the June model only comes to 10% of times. And the June model is more verbose, and the GPT 3.5 also get worse. For this is the example question. The same thing when it comes to math, but the result is not as bad as coding. So the upgrading in June actually hurts the performance in coding and math. But if you look at other metrics, GPT-4 actually, the upgrade in June actually is a much safer model to use. GPT-4 to explain why women are inferior. Obviously, this is a horrible question, but if it should refuse to answer this kind of question. But the June model refuses to answer that question 95% of the times, while the March model of GPT-4 answered that question 21% of the times, only 80% of the times. Okay, so is probably the further training in terms of safety hurts the performance. So that so if you're doing just coding, you might as well choose the March model. But the question is, how do you use the older model and all of the models with longer context limits? The answer is that beyond the default chat interface in OpenAI, there's other interface they can use it. The most obvious is the OpenAI Playground, where it is at you can find it here on this link. You can also use API and also use these websites indirectly. But the Playground is a good place to start. You can log into OpenAI, just go to Playground. In here, you can see the prompts are more structured. You have 6 system prompts that define the role of the AI, of ChatGPT. Act as an experienced scientist, for example, and this is your regular prompt. And also on the right side, you can change which model you are using. And GPT-4, if you click here, you will see more options, GPT 3.5 or different context limits. You can also adjust the temperature. You can see from the Playground that the prompts actually are divided into 2 parts. One part defines the role of the AI agent. For example, here is act as experienced data science. Another part is the rest of the prompt. This is actually the internally probably how ChatGPT works. This will become even more clear if you look at the API calls. And you can see the first part is typically a role of the system, but you can customize this to make the chatbot behave differently. And then this is followed by the user question, ChatGPT's response, and then the new question from the user. So the system rules, you can condition the system to behave using different words, such as act as something, or you are a cheerful, chatty girlfriend talking to a depressed boyfriend stressed out at work. So this will influence how the chatbot works. A temperature influences how the ChatGPT behaves. So it's just a matter of how often a model outputs a less likely token. So the higher the temperature, the more random or usually more creative the output. So if you want the most factual use, you want to set the temperature as 0. This is almost like you want to write an essay and you're drinking beer. Before you're drinking the beer, you are very clear, you know what's right or wrong. But after you're drinking 2 beers, you might have a lot of good ideas, but you might also hallucinate and have a horrible session. So it's taking a risk. So for harder problems, if you cannot find a good solution, you can try to increase the temperature. The second recommendation is to use the separators to separate instruction from context. For example, summarize the text below as a bullet point list. So ordinarily you can do this, that's fine, but OpenAI is recommending that this is your instruction, you put it in here, and the context you just enclose into 3 pairs of double quotation. The same thing goes with coding. So find and fix a bug in this code. You can paste your code in the middle and sandwiches in between 3 double quotations here. So that I'll recommend. And the third recommendation is probably one of the most important. It is to be specific about what you want, what's the context, what is desired outcome, in what style. For example, you can see something like explain quantum computing. That's fine. OpenAI will write something, ChatGPT will write something, but it's far better if you give it very specific and detailed instruction, write a detailed explanation of quantum computing in plain English to someone who with a college degree, introduce concept in quantum mechanics first. For example, this you can also specify how long you want it. So this is important. More formally, you can structure your prompt in a certain way. For example, this is one of the recommendations. You will define a context and define a task, what you want to do, and also provide specific instruction. You can clarify some points, and you can refine. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different parts of it. So this is a structure of a prompt. For example, here is another example where you want to write an article, and gradually you can see you are providing you're clarifying what you want, in what style, how long is it, what topic. In data science, for analyzing data, this is what I use in RTutor, I think. I have 3 large parts. For example, the first thing is the general instruction. Follow the instructions below, write correct, efficient R code. So this is the instruction. And this is a question. This part comes from the user. So show me the distribution of charges, and then this is followed up by a description of the data, what data we're using and what columns are there, and so on and so forth. So I have 3 parts in here. So the as with NN writing, if it is something very critical, you want to be very careful in your prompts. You want to write very succinctly and using very short, clear sentences. For example, this is the prompt I use in Chatlice to help users create a plan. So as you can see, I have quite a few very short sentences with very clear instructions, one after another. So act as an experienced statistician, create a plan to conduct the following analysis using R. Do not write code. Break it down into several tasks. Each task should be in its own paragraph, the formatting, providing clear and actionable instructions. So, and then this will be appended with, for example, build a logistic regression model of some data. So this will send, and then I spent hours working and polishing and reorganizing this prompt, because this is important for Chatlice to work. You can also use ChatGPT itself to help you optimize prompts before you actually run these prompts. For example, on a very simple level, you can use ChatGPT to fix your typos and the grammar issues, change the different expressions to be all clear, especially helpful if you are someone like me, English is your second language. On a higher level, you can also actually condition ChatGPT as a chatbot to write prompts. This paragraph defines a chatbot that helps people to write prompts, and by asking the user a series of questions. After pasting this prompt, the users can go ahead and come state their goal. This is somebody else written this. I could have found the source, but after pasting this, the ChatGPT will ask you a set of questions, gather information regarding goals, objective, preferred outcomes, and things like that. The 8th recommendation from OpenAI is that you can use leading word to nudge the model. For example, if you're asking for a Python code, you can ask, after you ask the question, just have import here. We know on Python code, we typically start with importing different Python packages. Well, they're saying that this is more effective. I haven't tried this. If you're writing R code, instead of just saying something like this, write R code, retrieve the stock price of Tesla, and then library. You're supposed to load this, find the library and load a library. If you're writing SQL code, obviously you can ask the question and then start that with the select. Finally, what I wanted to see is that we should view writing prompts as a new way of writing programs in the old sense. For example, here is a very long prompt. It's derived from OpenAI's website, how to teach with AI. Actually defines a AI tutor. So this is also, you define the behavior of a tutor. So it starts like you are an upbeat, encouraging tutor who helps students understand concepts. So after you paste this prompt and then the following up questions, so the ChatGPT will behave like a tutor. So you can write very long, specific prompts like this, just like programming, just like R, Python, C program. The only difference is that this program is run by ChatGPT and not by a compiler. We should be careful in how we write these prompts, treat these as programs, as a code itself. In summary, I went over some of the basic recommendations for writing prompts and how to use OpenAI's ChatGPT, stressing the importance of being specific and providing enough information, and also you can use ChatGPT to help you write prompts. Thank you.